On May 24, 2019, the quiet town of New Canaan, Connecticut, a mother of 5 began her day the way she always did. Jennifer Dulos dropped her children at school, her schedule packed with plans. She made it home safely, but after that moment, she vanished. No goodbye, no warning, just gone. When evening came, the silence grew louder. Her phone sat unanswered. Text messages piled up, unread. Family members felt their worry turn to panic and reached out to police. Authorities arrived quickly and came to a chilling conclusion. This was no voluntary exit. Jennifer had been attacked. Everything about her day pointed to careful planning. Her children had been cared for, her appointments were set, and inside her home, investigators found unmistakable signs of violence. The community mobilized immediately. Volunteers combed through parks and wooded areas. Search teams organized. News crews descended. Theories about murder spread through the streets. The search for her body, for any trace of evidence, became one of the most perplexing cases the state had ever seen. Jennifer Farber came into the world on September 27, 1968 in New York City. Her upbringing was privileged. Her father, Hilliard Farber, worked in finance. Her mother, Gloria, raised her with care. Her aunt, the renowned fashion designer Liz Claiborne, provided access to opportunities most never see. Jennifer attended Brown University and earned a master's degree in literature. After graduation, she pursued journalism, maintained a blog, and wrote plays. Her work reflected precision and clarity. Her career evolved from academic study to hands-on reporting, eventually settling into independent writing that allowed her to work from home. Jennifer imagined a life built around marriage, children, and a stable home grounded in structure and mutual respect. The man she would eventually marry, Fotis Dulos, was different in nearly every way. Born in 1967, Fotis grew up in Greece. He was magnetic and fiercely competitive. Also a Brown graduate, he entered the luxury real estate world and became an accomplished water skier. For Fotis, winning was everything. Speed, ambition, leadership. He thrived on intensity and public recognition. Losing was not an option. Jennifer valued structure in her family's well-being above all else. Fotis craved momentum, risk, and recognition. He sought pressure and public success. Their differences weren't about education or background. They ran deeper, rooted in how they saw the world and made decisions. By the early 2000s, Jennifer had shaped her identity around writing and motherhood, focused on home and family. Fotis had built his life around business, physical training, competitive sports, constant travel, and relentless pursuit of goals. Though they moved in similar professional circles, they were chasing entirely different visions of life. These early contrasts are crucial to understanding what came next. Their relationship wasn't built on romance alone. It was shaped by conflicting rhythms, battles over control, and opposing views on what normal life should look like. As their story unfolded, those foundational differences would drive their choices and ignite the conflicts that followed. Their relationship began in 2004 following a chance encounter at the Aspen airport. Though they'd known each other at Brown, they drifted apart after college. After a brief conversation, Fotis began writing Jennifer emotional letters, expressing his feelings. At the time, Fotis was still married to a woman named Hillary. That marriage ended in July 2004, and just 1 month later, he married Jennifer. The couple settled into a large Farmington, Connecticut home designed for a big family. Children arrived quickly. Twins came 2 years after the wedding, another set of twins in 2008, and a youngest daughter in 2010. They chose Greek names honoring their heritage: Petros, Theodore, Konstantinos, Christiana, and Cleopatra Noel. Jennifer managed the household with meticulous organization. She worked from home, balancing creative projects while co-parenting with help from a nanny. She kept a rigid schedule, coordinating activities, medical visits, and documenting family life on her blog. The house became her entire world and her sanctuary. In the beginning, the marriage seemed functional. Roles were clearly defined. Fotis ran his luxury real estate business and maintained his demanding schedule as a competitive water skier. Jennifer devoted herself to the children, managing their routines, schooling, health, and logistics. But over time, Fotis' dedication to his sport consumed more and more of his life. What began as a busy routine gradually transformed into an obsession with training and competition. His travel commitments expanded, sometimes reaching 10 days per month. Even when physically home, his mind remained locked on the next race. Tension filled the house. Arguments erupted regularly. Shouting became commonplace, harsh words directed at Jennifer and the children. Jennifer, who naturally avoided confrontation, withdrew inward, documenting everything and trying to maintain control. But the environment had already shifted. Household decisions increasingly depended on Fotis' moods, eroding the stability Jennifer had worked so hard to create. At the center of their growing divide was their approach to raising the kids. Jennifer believed in letting children discover their own interests without excessive pressure or rigid scheduling. Fotis was determined to mold them in his image. Early mornings, strict routines, and emphasis on winning. He immersed the children in water sports, pushing their endurance, refining their techniques, steadily increasing training hours. The results were undeniable. The children progressed rapidly, but Jennifer grew increasingly worried about the physical toll and emotional strain. Her requests for optional participation and better balance between rest and activity were repeatedly dismissed. From the outside, they looked like the perfect Connecticut family. 5 talented children, a successful athlete father, an impressive home. Inside, the reality was starkly different. Constant arguments, controlling behavior, and deep conflicts over values defined daily life. Jennifer tried to preserve normalcy, clinging to established routines, but she felt the foundation of the marriage crumbling. There were no formal legal battles yet, but the cracks were widening. Fotis moved further into dominance in athletics, while Jennifer's insistence on respect and boundaries steadily lost ground within their own home. Michelle Troconis entered Fotis Dulos' life through the water skiing circuit. Originally from Venezuela, she'd spent years as a professional athlete competing internationally, well acquainted with discipline, rigorous training, and a fast-paced lifestyle. They met at a tournament, one of many Fotis attended regularly, with Jennifer there watching the children. Their shared commitment to the sport and common passion quickly drew Fotis and Michelle together. Before long, their connection became frequent and obvious. For Jennifer, the shift was unmistakable and devastating. Fotis spent less time at home. His trips grew longer. His involvement in the children's daily lives diminished. When Jennifer confronted him, he either shut her out or made it clear he had no intention of ending his relationship with Michelle. That moment changed everything. In June 2017, Jennifer filed for divorce and moved with their 5 children to New Canaan, hoping to start fresh. What was supposed to be a carefully structured temporary custody arrangement with detailed schedules and clear rules became a constant battlefield. Every detail, from visitation times to after-school activities, turned into a fight. Jennifer pushed for structure and consistency, trying to create a stable environment where the children could feel safe. Fotis, by contrast, prioritized his own agenda, frequently disregarding court-approved guidelines and asserting his right to make decisions on his own terms. Michelle, once in the background, had now become a permanent presence in Fotis' life. She lived with him, accompanied him everywhere, and even attended visits with the children. To Jennifer, Michelle wasn't just the other woman. She represented betrayal, a constant reminder of the life that had fallen apart. For Fotis, Michelle was part of his new reality, and he made no effort to hide it. Jennifer fought hard for full custody. She documented repeated violations of the custody agreement, detailed ongoing emotional manipulation, and alleged the children were being used as leverage. She reported that the kids were overwhelmed by relentless activities and frightened by their father's temper. In legal filings, she raised concerns about his capacity for violence and noted he had access to firearms. After reviewing the evidence, the court didn't remove Fotis' parental rights but imposed temporary measures limiting his direct contact with the children and regulating interactions between him and Jennifer. Jennifer also requested that Fotis' partner Michelle and Michelle's daughter be completely excluded from the children's lives. Fotis viewed the court's decisions not as protective measures but as personal attacks. He didn't hide his belief that Jennifer was interfering with his relationship with the children. In conversations later cited in witness testimony, Fotis was quoted making statements suggesting she shouldn't stand in his way, that he would take the children regardless and that the situation would end on his terms. Jennifer's situation was growing increasingly dangerous. She told her attorneys and those close to her that she felt threatened, that pressure from Fotis was mounting. She even expressed fear for her own safety in official documents. Those statements would later become critical evidence in the investigation into her disappearance. Despite her warnings and the documented patterns of aggression and intimidation, the court stopped short of granting Jennifer full custody. Adjustments were made to visitation arrangements. Restrictions were imposed, but the framework of shared parenting remained. That hesitation, that failure to fully respond to clear warning signs would later be viewed as a tragic mistake. The legal battle became an endless cycle of accusations and counter-accusations. Neither side could resolve the central issue: the safety of the children. Jennifer kept gathering evidence, fully aware the legal system wasn't providing the protection she needed from someone she believed posed a real threat. May 24, 2019 started like any typical day for Jennifer Dulos. She dropped the children at school that morning and returned home shortly after. Surveillance footage captured her Chevrolet Suburban leaving the neighborhood and returning at approximately 8:05 a.m. Those images would be the last confirmed sighting of her at her residence. She had plans that day, including medical appointments in New York City and a meeting with her mother, but she never showed up. As hours passed, it became clear something was terribly wrong. Jennifer wasn't answering her phone. Messages went unanswered. No one had heard from her. The nanny raised the alarm first. She was supposed to switch shifts with Jennifer around noon, but after repeated unanswered calls, she contacted Jennifer's mother. By evening, recognizing the severity of the situation, the family called emergency services. One critical detail soon emerged. Jennifer's vehicle, the same black Suburban, was later found parked at Waveny Park, several miles from her house. Inside the SUV, investigators located blood. Surveillance footage confirmed her vehicle had returned to her garage after the school drop-off, but it left again later, and this time she wasn't inside. When law enforcement arrived at the Dulos residence, their attention immediately went to the garage. What they found there changed everything. Blood stains, not just droplets, but pools, covered sections of the floor. Splashes on walls, smears on the car door, evidence someone had tried cleaning the area. White marks and streaks were visible even without forensic equipment. Yet there were no signs of forced entry. Nothing broken. No doors kicked in. This suggested Jennifer had either let someone inside or the person already had access to the home. Investigators collected blood samples later confirmed to be Jennifer's. Inside the house, additional disturbing evidence was found. Furniture had been moved. Signs of a struggle were present. Everything pointed to one terrifying conclusion. The attack happened right there inside her home. From that point, detectives obtained surveillance footage from the surrounding neighborhood, but the trail didn't end in New Canaan. That same night, May 24th, Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis were seen in Hartford. Cameras captured their vehicle stopping multiple times along Albany Avenue near commercial dumpsters. In the footage, a man can be seen disposing of multiple garbage bags. A woman, later identified as Michelle, places something on the sidewalk. Police searched those dumpsters, and what they discovered was shocking. Dozens of items were recovered. Women's clothing stained with blood. Sponges saturated with what appeared to be bodily fluids. Zip ties, ropes, gloves. DNA testing confirmed many of these items contained Jennifer's DNA. There were also towels, napkins, and fabric pieces containing biological material. Among the most damning items were a t-shirt and undergarments belonging to Jennifer, both containing her blood and DNA. Some items also carried male DNA matching Fotis Dulos. That evidence placed him directly in the sequence of events following her disappearance. Security footage clearly showed Michelle Troconis participating. In one recording, she's seen discarding what was later identified as a blood-soaked sponge. In another, she's watching as Fotis throws bags into a dumpster. Her involvement in concealing evidence was now undeniable. What they disposed of wasn't simply trash, but critical forensic evidence. More than 30 trash bags were recovered from multiple dumpsters along that route. Each bag, carefully cataloged, contained materials with traces of blood and DNA. Investigators believe these were deliberate attempts to destroy evidence connected to a violent incident. Evidence deemed too dangerous to leave at the house or in a vehicle. These items became the foundation of the investigation. They confirmed the violent nature of Jennifer's disappearance and established a connection between Fotis, Michelle, and the attempted cover-up. Though Jennifer's remains were never found, the DNA evidence linked the garage crime scene to the materials recovered in Hartford. It was this overwhelming body of evidence that led to the first formal charges. According to investigators, the planning began the night before Jennifer disappeared. In the early morning hours between May 23rd and May 24th, 2019, Fotis Dulos entered a business property in Farmington. There, he took a Toyota Tacoma pickup belonging to one of the employees to mislead investigators and make identification on surveillance footage more difficult. Dulos changed his appearance, shaving his head and wearing unfamiliar clothing to resemble the truck's owner. He even left his own phone at home so its signal would register in Farmington, creating the impression he was there the entire time. That morning, inside the house were Michelle Troconis and attorney Kent Mahaney. Later, Michelle admitted she'd been answering calls from Greece to Fotis' phone, adding another layer of deception. At approximately 5:35 a.m., Fotis left Farmington in the stolen pickup, bringing a bicycle with him. Once he reached New Canaan, he parked the Tacoma near Waveny Park. A bus driver later confirmed seeing the truck in that area. From there, Dulos switched to the bicycle, traveling through backyards and side routes to reach Jennifer's home, deliberately avoiding main roads and surveillance cameras. He entered the house without forcing entry. His DNA was later found on the front door knob and on a kitchen faucet, where a mixture of both his and Jennifer's DNA was recovered. A neighbor's security camera captured Jennifer returning home after the school drop-off at 8:05 a.m. The assault occurred in the garage. Fotis remained inside for an extended period, carrying out the violent act and beginning initial cleanup. Tools and cleaning materials used during this time were later removed from the location. Investigators believe Jennifer's body and blood-covered items were placed into her Chevrolet Suburban. Dulos then drove that vehicle to Waveny Park, where the Tacoma was already parked and waiting. The Suburban remained there approximately 40 minutes, enough time to transfer a body and evidence from one vehicle to the other while watching for anyone nearby. Police thoroughly searched the park, considering the possibility of burial or concealment at the site, but found nothing to support that theory. Dulos then drove the Tacoma north. By 12:22 p.m., the pickup was spotted again in Farmington. At 1:10 p.m., he met with Michelle. According to prosecutors, they spent the rest of the day at his house sorting through and gathering items to dispose of. That evening, a fire was lit in the fireplace despite warm weather, which investigators believe was used to destroy certain materials. Later that night, Fotis and Michelle drove to Hartford, traveling along Albany Avenue. They stopped at numerous locations, throwing bags and loose items into various trash containers. Surveillance cameras recorded every stop, every movement, and the nature of the objects being discarded. 5 days after Jennifer's disappearance, the Tacoma underwent a thorough cleaning. The seats were removed. Fotis asked an employee named Paul to dispose of them, claiming they were stained from spilled coffee. Paul didn't throw them away. Instead, he kept them. Testing later revealed Jennifer's blood on the seats. On the day Jennifer disappeared, Paul visited Fotis' house twice and observed details that later became critical evidence. The Tacoma's keys, which had been left in the driver's door, suddenly went missing. Other than Michelle, no one else was present in the house. Later, Fotis asked Michelle to bring the keys, indicating she'd been using the truck herself during that crucial time period. The phone strategy was part of a carefully orchestrated effort to avoid tracking. Fotis Dulos' phone stayed at his home in Farmington, and Michelle Troconis answered a call from overseas, creating the impression that his phone, and therefore he himself, was still there. Adding to this deception, at 7:47 p.m. Hi. During the period when bags were being discarded, a call was placed from Fotis' phone to Kent Mahaney. Phone records confirmed this. Michelle Troconis' role in the case transformed dramatically after investigators reviewed surveillance footage from Albany Avenue in Hartford. What initially appeared to be passive involvement quickly shifted into active participation in evidence concealment. Her statements to investigators were riddled with inconsistencies. Over 3 separate interviews, Michelle changed her account multiple times. Initially, she stated she woke up with Fotis on the morning of May 24th that they were together, and he simply went into the home office. Later, she admitted he wasn't there at all. At first, she denied participating in the day's movements, but later acknowledged she's been in the car with Fotis and traveled around town with him. When questioned about footage showing her throwing something onto the sidewalk in Hartford, she claimed she had gum stuck to her fingers, even though the video clearly shows her tossing an object. Also attempted to frame the evening of May 24th as a casual coffee run or preparation for a house showing, explanations that didn't align with GPS data from the vehicle's dash cam or the contents recovered from the dumpsters. Investigators viewed these inconsistencies as intentional misdirection, clear indication she was actively involved in concealing what had occurred. Attention then shifted to Kent Mahoney, a close friend of Fotis and an attorney. Case records show he was at Fotis' house on the morning of May 24th. Initially, Mahoney denied being at the home at all, but later admitted he arrived around 7:40 a.m., waited 40 to 50 minutes, and left after being unable to reach Fotis. When asked for further explanation, he claimed that the following day he fell down a staircase, broke his phone, and lost part of his memory, making it impossible for him to turn over the device or recall critical information. Then came a significant discovery. Phone records showed that at 7:47 p.m. While bags were being discarded in Hartford, Fotis' phone made a call to Mahoney. When questioned about this, Mahoney stated he didn't remember the conversation. A deeply disturbing incident then linked Mahoney to a remote hunting property where he was a co-owner. Shortly before Jennifer's disappearance, someone discovered a freshly dug hole on the property covered with branches and a barbecue grate. Inside were bags of lime. After Jennifer vanished, those bags disappeared and the hole was quickly filled in. Police didn't find remains during their search, but given the timing and nature of the concealment, they considered it a potential prep site for disposing of evidence. This led investigators to re-examine testimony from Mahoney's ex-wife, who had previously reported domestic abuse and expressed concern about the close connection between her former husband and Fotis. She feared they might act together. These warnings, made before Jennifer's disappearance, began to look eerily prophetic. Based on all the evidence, authorities believe the roles broke down as follows. Fotis orchestrated and carried out the primary actions. Michelle provided an alibi, manipulated location data, and helped conceal evidence. Mahoney played the role of legal strategist, advising and covering for Fotis, verifying his presence at critical times, and possibly arranging use of the hunting property. The contradictions in Michelle and Mahoney's statements, their refusal to hand over devices, memory gaps, and timeline discrepancies all support the theory of coordinated involvement. At the heart of the conspiracy and evidence tampering case stood a triangle: Fotis Dulos, Michelle Troconis, and Kent Mahoney. Even without a recovered body, prosecutors built a compelling narrative of coordinated planning, execution, and cover-up backed by surveillance footage, phone records, and DNA analysis. January 28, 2020 was supposed to be a critical moment. An emergency hearing was scheduled in Hartford. Prosecutors were pushing to revoke Fotis Dulos' bond and have him taken into custody immediately. For Fotis, it was a decisive moment. If the judge sided with the prosecution, he'd be behind bars that very day. Fotis was expected to attend the hearing with Anna Curry, a former colleague and close companion, but he insisted they drive separately and meet at the courthouse. Anna left first, but soon received a troubling call from one of Fotis' attorneys. The GPS signal from Fotis' ankle monitor showed he hadn't left his Farmington home, a direct contradiction of their plan. Anna tried to reach him, no answer. Realizing this wasn't just a delay, she called emergency services. Responders arrived at the house within minutes. The garage was closed. Inside, they found a vehicle running, engine on. Fotis Dulos was in the driver's seat unconscious. The air was saturated with carbon monoxide. Oxygen levels had dropped dangerously low. Nearby, photographs of his 5 children were found beside him, indicating this wasn't an accident. Paramedics immediately began CPR at the scene. They used oxygen masks and a defibrillator. They were able to restart his heart, but his condition remained critical. Fotis was transported by air to a specialized hospital equipped with hyperbaric chambers. Despite continued efforts by medical teams over the following 2 days, the damage couldn't be reversed. Fotis Dulos died on January 30th, 2020, without ever regaining consciousness. His death automatically ended the criminal case against him. A note was discovered inside the vehicle, a final message. In it, Fotis denied any involvement in wrongdoing. He wrote he wouldn't spend even a single hour in jail for a crime he claimed he didn't commit. He also stated that Michelle Troconis and Kent Mawhinney played no role in Jennifer Dulos' disappearance. That letter ignited intense debate. The defense presented it as evidence of a flawed investigation. Law enforcement countered, arguing it didn't diminish the strength of physical evidence, surveillance footage, DNA connections, phone records, and eyewitness accounts. Public reaction was sharply divided. Fotis' family said he'd been crushed by pressure and the burden of accusations. For investigators, the death of their primary suspect created a significant obstacle. With Fotis gone, they could no longer question him or uncover the one truth they were still pursuing: what happened to Jennifer Dulos. The investigations into Michelle Troconis and Kent Mawhinney continued, but for the 5 children left behind, the aftermath was devastating. Custody remained with their maternal grandmother, Gloria Farber. Just before Fotis' death, the children were brought to the hospital hoping they could say goodbye, but he never regained consciousness. January 28th revealed the fragility of the entire case. The man at its center chose death over trial, leaving behind denials and, most painfully, no answers to the question that haunted everyone: where is Jennifer Dulos? After Fotis Dulos' death, legal focus shifted to those closest to him. The first to face trial was Michelle Troconis. Her case, initiated in 2020, encountered repeated delays due to the pandemic and procedural disputes over evidence, all of which intensified public interest in her role in the events of May 24, 2019. Prosecutors argued Michelle assisted Fotis in destroying evidence and creating a false alibi, pointing to her inconsistent statements across multiple police interviews. The defense portrayed Michelle as a manipulated woman, unaware of the full extent of what was happening, simply following Fotis' direction. The jury, however, rejected that argument. In January 2024, Michelle Troconis was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and hindering prosecution, confirming her involvement in concealing what happened to Jennifer Dulos. In May 2024, she was sentenced to 14.5 years in prison. The court made it clear her actions weren't accidental. Her role in the cover-up was deliberate and ongoing. Meanwhile, the case against Kent Mawhinney remained open and was being pursued separately. His name surfaced repeatedly during Michelle's trial, consistently linked to the broader alleged conspiracy. Michelle's trial marked the first time anyone was formally sentenced in connection with Jennifer's disappearance. The verdict sent a clear message. Even without recovery of a body, accountability would be sought for anyone who helped hide the crime. For the public, it demonstrated the lengthy investigation had produced concrete outcomes. But for Jennifer's family, it offered only partial closure. The central mystery, the location of her body, remains unresolved. After Jennifer disappeared, her 5 children were placed in the temporary care of their maternal grandmother, Gloria Farber. Following Fotis' death, that custody became permanent. Beyond providing basic necessities like housing, education, healthcare, and emotional support, family also had to protect the children from intense media attention and establish a stable daily routine. One of the greatest challenges was Gloria's age. Raising 5 teenagers required exceptional energy and resources. A support network was established, including teachers, counselors, and medical professionals. Extracurricular schedules were carefully organized to help the children maintain a sense of normal life. Special attention was given to their mental health, helping them process the loss of their mother, the trauma surrounding the case, and life under public scrutiny. At the same time, legal and financial issues needed addressing. The family worked to ensure the children retained their legal rights to their mother's estate and to set up contingency plans in case Gloria's health declined. The absence of Jennifer's body created a legal gray area, delaying inheritance proceedings and the long-term arrangements required to safeguard the children's future. In 2023, Jennifer Dulos was legally declared deceased. This ruling made it possible for her family to complete essential legal and administrative processes, including securing property rights for her children. For Gloria Farber, Jennifer's mother and the children's guardian, this meant transitioning from temporary caregiving to long-term planning, setting up trust funds, designating a backup guardian, and formally organizing the children's education and healthcare expenses. Many years have passed since Jennifer disappeared, yet the core question still remains. Where is her body? Investigators have reconstructed the probable sequence of events. One accomplice has been convicted, and others have been formally named. Still, her final resting place remains unknown. Without her remains, investigators are unable to fully piece together what occurred in those final moments or determine a confirmed cause of death. For Jennifer's family, this results in a constant state of unresolved waiting. The legal system may have provided a measure of closure, custody secured, her death legally acknowledged, but emotionally the story remains unfinished. They've never been able to hold a funeral, to lay her to rest, or to have a place to visit and grieve. The absence of a body isn't merely a legal obstacle. It's an ongoing source of pain and uncertainty. As of now, one individual involved in the cover-up has been sentenced. Another is still awaiting trial. But the question continues to loom over everything. Where is Jennifer? Where is Jennifer? The investigation goes on. Authorities remain dedicated to pursuing every lead, no matter how minor. Their search isn't solely about justice. It's about giving her children a place to mourn, a sense of peace, and a lasting assurance that their mother has not been forgotten. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant,